Right, and joining us live in the studios to talk about more about the National Tree Planting Day is Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, Soipan Tuya. Karibu sana, CS.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
150 million trees tomorrow.
Yes.
That is very ambitious.
It is ambitious, yes, I agree, but it's doable. The main import or reason why we took the decision to do a special tree growing day is for each and every individual Kenyan to own this initiative, because it's not a government initiative. It has to be the responsibility of each and every one of us. So I'm very optimistic that Kenyans are going to heed to the call. Already the response is amazing. It's very positive. So we are saying that even at the very minimum, if each one of us did one tree, and I would like to urge Kenyans to bring even the children along. Children can plant trees. So if we did one tree each, we would hit 50 million. So if we pushed ourselves a little bit and did 2 seedlings each, and Jeff, you already said you're doing 20.
Yes, please. And you're going to deliver them?
I will make sure to get you good seedlings, for your 20 seedlings. So if each one of us did their bit tomorrow, and I'm happy to report that we have a Jaza Miti application, a mobile phone application called the Jaza Miti app. And between yesterday and the last time I checked, we have had a registration of 2 million trees. So for me, that's a very good indicator that tomorrow being the day designated for doing nothing else but planting trees. Of course, I know Kenyans will engage in other social activities, but I would encourage that please do whatever else you have planned to do for the day after you have heeded to this call of national duty, because that's what it is.
Kenyans will see it as a day off, as you said, Waziri, but beyond the app to maintain and sustain this project, what else will you do to ensure that indeed we keep up with this 1.5 billion trees a year?
First of all, we have a strategy around the tree growing, a strategy running for the 10-year period. We have divided the different ecological zones of the country into 11 intervention areas, detailed with special strategies for each intervention area. I'll give an example of, I will be doing my tree planting tomorrow. I'll be joining His Excellency the President at Makueni. Makueni is a sample of our drylands strategy. And the drylands is where we have the huge opportunity, because that's where you have the land. And we will be planting trees around our wetland, the Q wetland in Makueni. And there is a whole strategy to that. One of the things we have to do with the drylands, because I'm just singling out one intervention area, is that because of the large tracts of land and the fact that the design of our weather pattern here in the country is that we have 2 rainy seasons. We want to take advantage of the 2 rainy seasons, the long and the short. We are taking advantage of the short rains, and that's why we have the holiday happening tomorrow. And it's being called the Green Holiday. I think it's a good name. So the strategy there is, because it is large tracts of land, the species that grow in this, the type of tree that grows in these drylands are special and specific, and we have to make sure that the whole plan for drylands is backed with sufficient science, but also technology. We will be showcasing the aerial seeding technology tomorrow, which Kefri has started applying in some parts of the country at a very low scale, but we hope to enhance that to scale. And aerial seeding will help us plant trees across large tracts of land more cheaply in the long run than the manual planting. We will also be doing a showcase of a mechanized way of doing the holes for the trees in the arid areas. Because if you do a shallow hole, I'm just going into the details, then you will not reach the soft part of the soil, which then will make sure that there is good water retention and can keep the seedlings growing up to maturity in the drylands. So there are specific technologies that we will be showcasing, and we hope to expand and grow to scale as we go. So we have the 11 intervention areas that have specific strategies to them. The other way to sustain this, of course, at the level of the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change and Forestry, is really to do coordination. We have to have a whole of government, whole of society, whole of community approach. And that's what I was saying. We need, one of the intentions for the holiday is to encourage Kenyans to, have a value system around our forests and our environment, to really know the value of planting trees. And we are saying that somebody was asking me why we are talking about tree growing and not tree planting, because growing is long term. But we have had a culture of planting trees in this country. And if we are doing it the right way, then we would not even be working so hard to do the 15 billion trees. Because the culture of just planting a tree and moving on to plant another one, it doesn't help. We have to think through how to nurture the tree to maturity, doing it the right way, right from the ABCs of how do you plant a tree, what is the science around it, what would grow in your Kiambu site tomorrow is not necessarily what we have to plant in Makueni. So the need to bring all players on board is to make sure that we are doing it right this time round, so that I tell Kenyans, you better plant one tree and actually see it to maturity than pride yourself of planting 20 and you actually have no plan on how to make sure it thrives. The other important thing is that we are working, part of the strategy is to really capitalize on our education system. We have already brought before Cabinet a legal framework together with my colleague, Minister for Education, to make sure that beyond what is on paper, to make sure that we have environmental protection and conservation as part of our education system. We actually begin to see it in practice, right from the lower levels of schooling. And like I said, small children can plant trees if they are trained to do that. Yeah. But beyond just planting, it's valuing what we have in terms of our natural resources. We want the tree planting to speak to the food security need of the country. We want tree planting to speak to the job creation needs of this country. We are moving from one cycle of drought to where we are now with the floods. At the very minimum, the tree growing plan and initiative is a mitigation against the climate change effects, which is what we are seeing manifesting in the cyclic droughts and floods. So if we plant trees and actually grow them, then we will address, in the long run, the cyclic droughts and floods. Yeah. And that should be the business of everybody, because we must alleviate the adverse effects of climate change.
Sure. Waziri, obviously there'll be no tree planting in the flood-ridden zones. There'll be none. I mean, it's impossible. But the question is, have the counties been responding, the other counties? Have they been responding?
Yes, and I agree with you. We are having a challenge with the flooded counties. The tree growing will be very low-key because they cannot reach the targets we have set for the counties. The response from across the country is very positive, very encouraging. I have been talking to people everywhere I meet, just like I asked you, Jeff, where you're doing your trees and how many you're doing. Yesterday, I asked my hairdresser where she's doing her trees, and she lives in Kawangware, so she said she has no space to plant a tree there, but she's sending her some money to her mother up country to buy some seedlings to plant on her behalf. My neighbors invited me to the tree planting that will be happening tomorrow at 10 a.m. So those are indicators for me that show that really there is a huge response. I said we have, yesterday only we have 2 million trees registered, planted. And I really want to encourage all of us that let us record these trees. Let us make use of the app, because if we don't measure then the tree planting that we are doing, then it is going to undermine the results and the success we want to see with the tree growing exercise. We are doing this collaboratively, a whole of government. The national government administration has come out very strongly, supported or working together with the Kenya Forest Service, the Kenya Forestry Research Institute. Each of my cabinet colleagues has adopted 2 counties, at least 2 counties, and it will go beyond tomorrow, really to just champion the cause going forward. And we are targeting to do at the very least 100 million seedlings. I know we can surpass that if each one of us takes their space to do it. But also for Kenyans to know that it's not a one-off. We are just rolling out the short range planting plan. And from the predictions we are having, the rains will go on up to most probably January. Yeah. So this will be a continuous process. And I want to really say we have gotten a lot of support from different partners, both national and non-governmental organizations that have come on board to support by donating seedlings in very large volumes. And we want to encourage for that to go on, because we still have to let's take advantage of the rain until the end of it. So we have different people coming in. I have seen private nursery owners coming out and really supporting the cause. Some are even donating the seedlings. We may not be able to buy the seedlings directly as government right now, but I know there's been a lot of support for the private nursery owners. We have been referring our partners to specific nursery areas across the country. And I also want to take this opportunity to encourage Kenyans who are engaging in tree nursery production and propagation to keep doing it. We will continue partnering with them. In my thinking, we are at a point where we need to even think about aggregating this seedling production so that we can work together with the private seedling producers for purposes of certification, for purposes of registration and certification with the support of KEFIs and KEFRI, so that we ensure that we have quality seed, because it's not just any seed that we can take and plant. They have to be quality seeds that we can have some guarantee of survival.
Waziri, a concern that has persisted the last couple of months is the logging ban and people feeling that it would circumvent such efforts that we've been talking about the last few minutes. The other being corruption in KFS. We saw the president dismiss a few officers off of, corruption within that institution. How are you dealing with what some are calling entrenched and institutionalized corruption in KFS, and dealing with something like the logging ban, some saying that it won't be instituted the way it's supposed to?
You should be talking about the lifting of the logging ban. I have on several occasions said that we need a lot of sensitization around how our forests are designed in this country. We have a small percentage of our gazetted forests which are for commercial purposes. Right. And it's 5% of the total gazetted forests. And these forests are supposed to feed the wood products needs, the timber sector of this country. We have a huge deficit of the timber needs in the country, which is being breached by imports, wood imports. It's being breached again by unsustainable means of, supplying timber products, some of which is illegal logging, right. Because timber the need for timber in this country is all around us, for the construction industry, and it puts food on the table for many Kenyans. And we cannot ignore that sector. it is one that will enhance the GDP of this country. The wood sector in the country is one that will enhance employment for our young people and stop us from importing toothpick, because we can enhance the wood market or the timber market in this country. And that is the purpose for which we have the 5% commercial forests in this country that are purposely grown and harvested after a period of time, in a very planned manner.
How many hectares is that usually?
It is 152,000 hectares out of over 2 million hectares of gazetted forest. So it's a small percentage. In fact, what we should be doing is encouraging more farmers in this country to engage in commercial forestry, to bridge the gap that we have in the wood deficit in the country. So the whole discussion about lifting or enforcing the ban on logging only applies to the 5%. And that's a misconception that has been ongoing in this country, where people think we are discussing indigenous forests. We are not. Indigenous forests are no-go zones. They are not part of the plan to log, and that is where we are putting a lot of effort to make sure that our indigenous forests are no-go zones, and anybody who is engaging in illegal activities in the forest is encouraged to stop, because we are engaging in very serious operations in the country to make sure that we weed our forests off of illegal loggers and criminals. Speaking to the issue of KFS, we have had a lot of challenges in the institution, I must say. One of them is the staffing levels have been very low, and that's why the first thing that the president instructed or directed was the employment of forest rangers. We were operating from a very low level of staffing, especially the enforcement officers. And recently we had a cohort of 2,600 who graduated from Gilgil. And that almost takes us to 98% of the required staffing levels for enforcement officers of Kenya Forest Service. So that is going to be a big boost for our conservation efforts. We have also had, a lot of illegal activities happening left, right, and center in our forests, and we have found some officers of Kenya Forest Service being part of the scheme to, illegal logging, abetting with the criminals and conniving. And we have taken very serious action, disciplinary action, against the officers found culpable. And we are very clear that any person found to be part of the scheme of destroying our forests will not find their place, because we are serious. The government is serious. Because we cannot be telling Kenyans to plant 15 billion trees, and we have another team of Kenyans, working to sabotage the process by logging in our forests, charcoal burning, and all the illegalities that are happening, including people getting into the forest and purporting to lease it to other people, selling parcels of land within the forest. So that is what has become very rampant. And we are intentionally, with the operations that we are doing to make people get out of the forest that are inside the forested areas. And we are doing that with a lot of care to make sure that it is going to be a once and for all exercise. We have had instances in the past where the forest boundaries have been very unclear over time, and that doesn't help government, it doesn't help wananchi, because when we leave the forest boundaries as porous as they are right now, then it really encourages people getting in to encroach and undertake illegal activities in the forest. So what we are doing is we are working together with the Ministry of Lands to make sure that we delineate the forest boundaries, and working together with the various partners, and the government has as its priority fencing off of our forests and wetlands, and that is going to reduce the encroachment and ensure that even as we talk about planting new trees, we're already conserving and protecting what we have.
And speaking about encroachment, sorry, Waziri, really quickly, one of our colleagues in Kajiado mentioned how the Maasai community in the Mau evictions mentioned they weren't sensitized and were requiring compensation. What are you doing about those kinds of cases?
We, like I say, we are undertaking operations, and the operations so far undertaken to get people out of the forest are in areas where the boundaries are very clear. Where we have unclear boundaries, we are taking time to delineate and make sure, and it's a participatory process. You know, by the time we have surveyors going to the ground and forest officers to do the delineation, we are very careful to make sure we are engaging communities. The Mau section, where probably the caller is talking about, is a community forest under the county government of Narok. We are working closely with the county government of Narok. We have put together a committee which even has community member representatives, members of the county government officials, the Ministry of Lands, the Ministry of Interior and National Coordination, as well as the Kenya Forest Service. So consultation will happen, again, because of the lack of clear delineation of the boundaries. So we have to have a coordinated way of bringing clarity to the issues of boundaries. And I want to assure the caller or the person who has sent the message that it is going to be a participatory process to make sure that we deal with the issue once and for all.
Silpa Anyango says you were at Maseno University last week planting trees.
Yep.
And she says it was a wonderful operation. I'm coming back to the 15 billion trees. Waziri, humor me here, because King Charles III was in town 2 weeks ago. And we know, he's been planting trees all his life. And when he heard the number 15 billion, he couldn't believe that that would be possible. Who came up with this number? Why wasn't it like 9.5 billion or, let's plant 7 billion? Who came up with 15?
Actually, the number is scientific, if I may call it. The total hectareage of degraded landscapes in this country stands at 38,000 hectares. 38 million hectares. And the 15 billion is only addressing 10.6 million hectares, a small percentage of the total degraded landscapes. And it is carefully selected from the various ecosystems in terms of what is available. When we talk about the arid areas, what is available to be conserved. The other intervention area is the forest plantations that Vicky was talking about, the 5%. How much of that would contribute to the 10.6 million hectares? So it's a clearly crafted number based on the total degraded landscapes in the country. And, nobody needs to be convinced of how bad it is in this country right now with regards to the degraded nature of our ecosystems. The site for His Excellency the President tomorrow is the Q wetland in Makueni. Q is, the source of Q is the Chulu Hills. Chulu Hills has a number of springs coming out of it. Kiboko Springs, Q, and a number of others. And Q in particular is the main source of water for Makindu town. It is the only source of water, and there's a spring that comes from Chulu, and then the Q wetland, and there's a pump put up by the water and sewerage company in Makueni to supply water to Makindu. And there lies the Makindu River. It's totally dry, completely dry. And with the dryness of the river, of course it's because of encroachment, unsustainable activities happening around the catchment, farming, herding, and people doing all manner of activities, including deforestation, clearing of the vegetation around the water catchment. The situation is real. And if we plant trees, for example, the trees we are going to plant in Makindu tomorrow, the ABC of it is that you restore the ground cover. Because right now with the dryness of Makindu River, it tells you that the water table has gone very low, you know, so that a once flowing river is completely dry, and the communities adjacent to the river downstream, because there is no more water flowing down to them, they have started, I was there over the weekend, they have been digging wells along the river. The more they dig the wells, the more they dry up the catchment area, you know. We have had other entities coming to respond to the water shortage by digging boreholes. Again, that kills the water catchment completely. So that is just a sample of, you know, what we see around. And wetlands, for me, are the lowest hanging fruit of restoring our environment, because these are natural. Somebody referred to them as the kidneys. The forests are the lungs. The wetlands are the kidneys, because they are the ones that supply the water, actually purify the water, and, you know, supply water. And when you go to Makindu, they told me the mambo yao ni matatu. It is kewo, it is water, it is maji. That is their mambo matatu, which is very ironical because of the, you know, the springs that come out of the rich Chulu Hills. So that speaks to the dire need for Kenyans to own this, so that we don't continue doing what the Makindu people are doing, digging wells and, you know, killing the rivers more than what it is. So we are planning to do fencing of that wetland. In fact, the fencing has begun, plant trees, and we will see water restored. It is not very complicated. You know, the tree growing may look very simple, but it is what the people of Makindu need to have their water needs met. But if we continue to leave the Makindu wetland, the Q wetland open, free for all, we are going to see a situation where, like the Lake Olbolosat, a whole lake dried up, and you will find livestock grazing right in the middle of what used to be a lake. And I think that should be a wake-up call for all of us, Jeff. And I think Kenyans have gotten the message, because that's the essence of why we have the green holiday tomorrow. So that it is, tree growing is a serious business that we must all embrace, and we are going to deal with a lot of problems that are associated with the degraded landscapes in our country.
Absolutely. Waziri, happy Green Day.
Thank you for coming in.
And a happy one to you too.
Yeah.
And please make sure you plant your tree.
I look forward to the 20 seedlings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, Soipan Tuya, talking to us about tomorrow, Tree Planting Day. Plant as much as you can, folks.
Yep.
Let's get to that number 15 billion, which is nowhere near what we need.
By 2032.
By 2032.
Yep.
Keep tweeting at Krenanga Jeff.
Vicky Rubidiri.
At Citizen TV, the hashtag. Sunday Live.
Yep.
Sunday Live takes a break, plenty more ahead. Stay with us. Back in a moment.